It was the peak of the pandemic. I had no job, lots of time, not a lot of money, and no real direction. And then I started to think and learn. Often men are bombarded with a whole series of things to do, things to spend money on, time, and it's all quite confusing. What I kind of want to share with you today is, well, what do you do if you don't have anything to start with or not sure exactly what to start with? And I kind of want to share this as a video because eventually I want to crystallize this into something more, which I'll talk about at the end of the video. I want to talk about the idea of the tutorial level. The whole Mr. Miyagi and Karate Kid wax on, wax off vibes. Stuff that, if you remember in a video game, you take you back, you play in the tutorial level, it's all easy, it's nice and bright, the music's beautiful, there's no real challenge, you're just learning how to play the game, and it's lots and lots of fun. You don't have to, you just kind of walk around with what you've got, you don't have a whole lot of equipment, but you learn the mechanics of the game. That's exactly what I want to do with this. Now, I kind of want to take you through all these things that you can do if you've got $0, but you will have a big impact that will help you begin to conquer mountains. So we need to start with probably what I consider the most important, or one of the most important. Simply clean your room. Look around and clean your room. I mean, organize it. I mean, put stuff away. Have everything make sense. And like even me, like I'll just kind of pan this around quickly, all lined up sequentially and everything like that, really OCD. You see that, it's just like, it's all color coordinated. Yes, it's a bit OCD, but it's just nice to look in there and it makes it easy to build an outfit. You don't necessarily have to do that like me, but what I'm trying to say is you can set yourself up for success by simply having everything clean and a clear mind. I kind of like watched a snippet of the movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper the other day. And as soon as he kind of takes his, life-changing pill, so to speak, he realizes that he gets home and his home is an absolute mess. So he cleans it. And then after that, he's able to actually actualize his manifestations or his dreams and desires. It's the same thing here. If you come into a room that's messy, it will feel, you might not feel it straight away. You might feel it straight away and then you might forget about it later, but it will have the impact that it will just slow you down and you won't be able to think as clearly. So why not start with that, And I'll kind of give a tip to how to go about that soon. It kind of is a tip for doing anything that you don't want to do in a moment, but you have to stay tuned for that. So that takes me to, my next point. So now that you've cleaned your room, I want you to learn how to iron. Now, what do I mean by that? So for me, I'm always for, dressing for success and having like a lot of collared shirts. So by that, I mean, I have to wash them and I have to iron them. No cheats, don't get the non-iron shirts. You will learn a lot about how to look after clothes and just how to look after things in general if you simply iron your work shirts. I know a lot of people go into work or they work from home or whatever, but as a guy, you should still feel the importance and what it feels like to wear a full suit and, have a shirt. So if you're kind of going to work or you're going to school, it's important to take yourself seriously and have like really neatly laundered and pressed shirts. It just shows that you have attention to detail and that you take yourself seriously. I think there's nothing worse than seeing a guy that has a shirt that hasn't been ironed and looks like it came out of a box and it just looks terrible. So that's kind of like a thing. So if you're kind of going to step out into the world, wouldn't you want to ensure that your clothes are as clean, as proper as they can be? And then if they've got any holes or anything in it, by doing the ironing, you can kind of identify that and realize that you say, need a new white shirt or something. And that's kind of how that's going to come through. So it's not as embarrassing, or that it's dirty and needs to be cleaned again. So that's kind of what that's about. Or even you could just simply iron your pillowcases. So when you change your sheets once a week, which I also recommend, as well as ironing, change your sheet men once a week and wash it properly. By having a nice pressed and clean pillowcase is like, it's another feeling. Like it's really, seems really OCD, but it's just a nice luxury that you can do for yourself. That doesn't cost anything unless you want to count the cost of ironing water, which isn't that expensive anyways. But yeah, like that's what I'm trying to get at. And I guess kind of moving on to my next point, if you're in home and kind of like the tutorial level, I feel all men should be able to cook or be able to cook a couple of meals. And by that, I mean, you can just simply cook without necessarily needing a recipe. Now, at first, you probably won't know how to cook, and that's fine. But what I want to kind of encourage is you to find stuff that you like and start cooking. See, for me, I like to cook dal with red split lentils. I like to cook a pasta sauce. I like to make pizza. I like to, what else do I normally make? I like to make curries. I know I kind of said that with dal already, but like, I like to make pasta soups. I like to make many other types of pasta dishes. Yeah, I can make stir fries too. But basically what I'm trying to say is by having the ability to cook, it's important because you need to, it bleeds into the idea of preparing yourself for the week and having all your meals planned. By that I mean, say, your lunch and your dinner. So my lunches are always split like a curry and rice. I just heat it up, boom, ready to go, eat, nice and easy. My dinners are like either the curry and then I'll cook fresh rice. So it's a big serving. So I eat a lot for dinner. Or it's kind of like a pasta soup ad pastina. But basically what I'm trying to say is by having that all set up for the week ahead, it allows you to pursue other things outside of a 9 to 5 and your goals and your dreams and your fitness of like me being able to run, for example. That's what that's about. But you can't have that if you don't have any food, buy fast food all the time. So you need to learn to cook. And this kind of gets to my next point. By being able to learn to cook and look at ingredients, you start to kind of realize what are some foods that you like or kind of how to integrate diversity into your eating. So for example, me, I know that if I have onions, garlic, some type of legumes being chickpeas, lentils, white beans or whatever, I can make some type of dish that'll be very nutritious and healthy, as well as say carrots, potatoes, on occasion celery if I'm making soup, but it's not the end of the world, and an assortment of spices. I can make a curry as well. I don't necessarily need coconut milk on hand. I can just use soy milk. And as for spinach, I've got it frozen in the freezer and I'm working on growing it right now in my planter box. So by having that idea of staples, you go to a supermarket and you get those. So you always ensure that you can cook a meal out of something, if that makes sense. So by doing so, instead of just buying crap at a supermarket or not knowing, you become focused. You become like, you go in there and you're like, I need boom, 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 boom. It seems boring to an extent, but I think there's a point where you can get a couple of things and do a lot with them, opposed to buying a lot of stuff and having to chuck it out anyways. It's kind of like, and it feels rewarding to go through all that food. Like even tonight, I've got some like leftover stuff and I think I know what to do with it. So I've got a whole red pepper, I've got some cherry tomatoes, I've got some garlic, I've got some passata, and I've got some cashews. So I'm gonna soak the cashews. I am going to roast the capsicum, the tomatoes, and some garlic. I'm going to make a sauce, and then I'm going to effectively blend those ingredients and the cashews into the sauce, make kind of like a creamy rosé pasta sauce, and then I'm going to add that to, say, spaghetti, and then boom, I've got a meal right there. And using leftovers, and I can cut up some cucumber to kind of either just kind of snack on throughout the day, or I could make a spicy Korean like cucumber salad as well if I wanted to. So just like being able to think like that on the spot is something really powerful, and it kind of means that you can kind of go out in the world, and if you had to cook a meal or you're in a situation, like you could just take charge of it. If you're with some friends and I don't know, they had to cook for a party or something, and you could say, look at what they had and make something. Like that's pretty powerful. And that's kind of like, it's your own home environment. So you should be comfortable, and you should be comfortable enough to cook and have good utensils and stuff. So that's kind of what I want to factor into like this whole tutorial level thing. So that's kind of like goes to my next point then too. Like, so you're buying food, but then if you were to grow food, what could you grow that would add a great supplementation to what you already eat? So for me, for example, I do eat greens, but I don't eat greens as much as I would like to. just because like sometimes I don't get them or I just forget, and I like go long efforts without going to a grocery store. So for me, I feel if I can grow, or I am growing spinach, if I grow spinach, sorrel, which are like greens, and add them to soups and stuff, and rocket as well, which is like a salad too. If I can add, or make a pesto out of that, like if I can add that stuff from my garden that grows in abundance, that's awesome because I'm saving so much money, because that's kind of, it's not that it's expensive, but it adds up. So if you can kind of like make that or even freeze it or whatever, you've just got it like ready to rock and roll, and it's just like so easy. Opposed to like if I was to say grow carrots or potatoes that might require more time or more nutrient density from the soil, I'd rather grow something in a way that's more perennial, which means that you can just like grow it and keep harvesting it, and it just keeps growing, like replenishing. It's like almost like it's like in a video game, like when you know do something and the enemies come back or whatever. Like it's just it's hard, yeah. It's a cool feeling, and I guess I felt that the other day when I picked some basil when I did a pizza, and like it was really cool to note that like I didn't have any basil, but then I go outside, it's like, oh, I've got some fresh basil that I can use. It's that feeling of like that empowerment from like, you know. Now I do know that this planter box did cost me money, but in the grand scheme of things, if you say just had some soil in your backyard and got some seeds, which don't cost anything, or got some, you know, roots from some food anyways and planted it, then it would, you know, more or less be free as well, right? So that's that. And then kind of, I guess, into my next point and kind of back to my original point, clean your garage. So for me, I own the house I'm in, and the garage at times has been really messy, and I use it every day to get to access my bike. So if I go in there and it's really messy, it's not that nice. But if it's super clean and fresh, it adds a nice vibrance and organization. And it kind of helps you to see what else you can do in the garage and kind of have the capacity to do projects. Like I fixed up my girlfriend's bike in there, and it kind of just gives you that confidence to say, you know where everything is, and it's nice and organized, and it doesn't look like crap. Like a lot of people, you'd be surprised, have garages that are really, really messy. So by kind of, I guess, taking pride of your own space and control of your life, it's a cool thing to be in charge of, and it's part again of that tutorial level. Like you don't have to spend money on cleaning a garage, you just have to chuck crap out or organize it better. Like, you know what I mean? So there is that. Now, I guess kind of the whole point of all of this before, and I guess the point about starting with the cleaning is it gives you a clearer vision, because by having a clearer vision, you can get a sense of what you actually want to do or want to learn. So for me, it was kind of like, it was in the pandemic and I wanted to buy a house, but I didn't know a whole lot about property, and I wanted to learn as much as I could with that free time. So I listened to a podcast called The Property Couch, and I listened to, I reckon, maybe 200, if not more, of their episodes, just one after another, just banged them out in terms of I would go for a walk, I'd listen to it, go for a bike ride, I'd listen to it. Like, I just wanted to absorb so much information, and I started to understand the core tenets of what they talked about. And that kind of became integral when I started looking for my own property, and I had the confidence because I knew exactly what they were talking about, and you know, not to be scammed by certain aspects of the property market, like, you know, by a bunch of, what do you call it? Spruikers, so to speak. And just kind of knowing like what type of property type to look out for based on budget and asset class and location. Like I know that all these things are technically obvious, but there's a finite, like there's a more deeper level of things that you can start to understand through absorbing this. And it might not be property for you. You might not want to say get a house, or you're not super interested. But the point is, and the example I want to give with that is that there was a wealth of knowledge out there, and by kind of finding people that were in a space that were teaching others about it. Now, I do know that they do have a business in terms of a, what do you call it, buyer's agent business and a mortgage broking business. So there is some incentive for them in terms of free promotion. But their more core principle is that they want to teach and encourage others. So they could technically do it themselves, like I have, so long as they adhere to their principles, and you'll have success, which I did. So it was kind of cool, and others did so too. So it kind of gave that verification that you can do it. So that was really inspiring to note that, as opposed to like if I had to kind of learn all that when I was going through the process of buying a house, I think it would have just been chaotic because I would have had to absorb a lot of information in a short amount of time while looking for properties but not knowing what to look for. It just would have been an absolute mess. So I'm grateful that I kind of like did that. Now, if I could kind of say something that's been really important, because I used to play like a lot of video games as a kid, and it's something I kind of struggled with in terms of maturing into like late adulthood and kind of like prioritizing other stuff. I'd say probably the biggest thing that's helped me shift out of that childlike mentality is simply listening to video game music. Because I used to play like a lot of games that were kind of more like Final Fantasy. I played some Halo. I played some Assassin's Creed. A lot of those games have very good soundtracks and immersive audio that kind of helps you really focus. Skyrim as well. So what else did I listen? Like the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. So many games. But basically, by leveraging that music, you can kind of get into the zone and start to do any of these things. You can use it to as background music when you clean your room, when you clean the garage. You can listen to a podcast when you clean the garage. If you want to start researching, I don't know, like holiday destinations, you can do that. If you want to start learning about, I don't know, whatever, you could have that as kind of like, it gives you that sense of the tutorial level, like it gives you that sense of calm of when you used to play those games, but you're leveraging it in your mind to have to learn something new. So it's kind of like getting you into a flow state. So it's like the nostalgia of you wanting to play the game is dispelled because it's more so can be somewhat emulated through your daily activity and simply just listening to the music, because chances are the music is as integral to the as playing the game itself, if that makes sense, without the feeling of that you wasted time because you're putting it towards something you care about. And then I guess probably to underlay some of this, you can use ChatGPT to help. So for me, when I did the figure out what veggies to grow, I kind of asked ChatGPT for kind of some advice in terms of how to start to understand this, and listening to others as well. So you can kind of use that to start, getting the ball rolling and thinking about things. But yeah, I guess this is kind of like the initial draft in terms of my ideas, in terms of what I would do for a future ebook, which is going to be free for everyone. It's probably going to be, I think, 30 to 60 pages. There's going to be some food recipes in there too, staples that I do. If you had to get kitchen equipment to cook with, stuff I recommend. Like, it's going to give you everything you like. I know that will cost money, but I kind of, I think the recipes are different. But like, again, it's kind of going to go through all this stuff and probably in a bit more detail just to kind of explain the importance and what it's going to be. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be really exciting to make that, and I can't wait to kind of have it linked in every video so that no matter where you are or start from, or you don't feel that great or you're not in a good spot in your life as a guy, you can start to use the tutorial level to build something great and start conquering mountains and conquering life today. Like it's going to get you one step closer to conquering mountains. Because before you do that, you kind of have to, in a sense, conquer yourself and your current environment. So yeah, conquer mountains, conquer life. Tutorial level coming soon. Thanks.